Hey, welcome back to another exciting late episode of Sharply Boy. I try to be like England and the trains. Aren't they they're like always on time or something, right?
So
In
you're
England.
2 minutes late. You're California on time.
All right, cool. I appreciate it. Audience, I'm so sorry, but sometimes we get embroiled in like heated conversations. I don't know if Father wants to tell everyone what we were talking about, but basically it was the death of Twitter. There you go. I'll sum it up with that. But let's not talk about Twitter. We're here to talk about the animated series, and we're talking about today the Magicks of Megas-tu. Megas-tu.
Yep.
And I'm so excited to be joined by this wonderful panel. Welcome back, Aaron. Good to have you here. And it was cool to see the two Aarons on Text Track last night. That was really neat. It's like a Villac, the two Aarons. Long time ago guest returning, Gary. Hello, Gary. Welcome back. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today. And talking about this animated series episode. I know you like the animated series, so I'm glad you're here to talk about it. And of course, we have Fathery, who is a turnaround from not liking the animated series to loving it so much that it's probably one of his favorite series after Deep Space Nine, if I got that right.
The animated series is my third favorite.
I know he's totally
Trek.
third
Can you hear
favorite.
me?
There you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The original series is your second favorite.
I need everyone else to catch up to where I am and admit that the animated series is better than the next generation. That's my life goal.
That's even more extreme than me.
I'm wearing my Starbase 80 shirt today because
Oh, nice.
I love the shirt. I accidentally fell asleep in it, so now it's cruddy though.
I've got TAS.
Oh, nice. That's a good one. It's some kind of animated thing. But guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. And audience, thank you. There's so much going on in the chats right now. Wow. I'll try to catch up on here. But why don't we go ahead and start with the episode summary, which I think Father is going to want to give because he really likes this episode and says it's the most metal episode of Star Trek, if I'm not mistaken. So, Father, what do you have to say about the summary for Megas? And it would help because there's construction going on behind my house, so I got to mute myself.
Sure. Sorry, my having some computer issues, but let me see if I turn my green screen off, if that helps.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Now we
see
can
me?
hear you. Do it. No, we can't see you. There you are. Now you're
So
back.
yes, this episode,
Yep.
He's doomed to not do the summary. I'll do the summary. Poor thing. Father, you muted yourself. Actually, is what happened. But
Subspace interference.
in this time, the Federation believes that at the heart of the universe where the Big Bang happened, the explosion may still be happening. It's a weird time in science. And so they decide that they're going to go through to the center.
can you hear me now?
Yes. There you go. I was just going to do this wacky summary, but no, Father, you keep freezing. Okay, go.
So the summary for this episode, they are exploring the center of the galaxy. Am I still freezing?
Yes, you're still freezing.
Jesus Christ.
1 hour later.
You know what? It's a miracle that I'm here, because I've been having like an insane weekend, an insane day. I had to go visit a relative in the hospital when I got to that hospital, it turned out like, oh, we actually moved him to this other hospital.
Oh,
I had
that
to like go
sucks.
make it to like at a barber's appointment that I was late to. But it's all good. It's all good. I'm here now. I made it. So if I'm coming through loud and clear, we'll proceed with the summary.
Yes, you're coming through, and also Sub Commander is in the audience and says, "Father, try inverse phasing." So,
oh, good idea. Okay, sorry. Let me give that a try. Okay, I think we're good. I need to do something with the deflector, right? The deflector is always the solution. But this episode, yeah, it is the most metal episode of all Star Trek. Of all like 900 episodes of Trek, this one is the most metal. So it always has a special place in my heart. And the summary, the Enterprise is exploring the center of the galaxy, trying to see if everything exploded from a central point. Is there still like matter being created there? Are they going to be able to witness the creation of matter itself, of life itself? And when they cross over into this cosmic center, the ship is caught in a whirlwind of swirling energy and matter, and then they encounter Lucian in the form of the devil himself, who appears on the bridge of the Enterprise to greet his friends. He's like, "Oh yes, friends from Earth. It's been so long. I've been wanting to see you." And he's so cool, and he like takes them into his dimension, which intersects with our dimension here at the center of the galaxy, a dimension where magic is real, where the logic of things is totally different, where women are using their magic love spells to capture men, and sorcerer contractors are building castles out of thin air, and it's wacky and crazy, and it's not even natural to exist there in like a material form. Everything is kind of intangible. And while there, Lucian explains how they had once traveled to Earth, the people of Megas-tu, his home, his home world. They had come to Earth in the form of helpful sorcerers and magicians and wizards, but the mankind of Earth turned on them and tried to murder them and extinguish them, and they tried to flee to Salem, Massachusetts, and that didn't work out too well. They were burnt at the stake, and so these refugees returned to Megas-tu, but Lucian longed for the companionship that humans provided and was so excited to see them back. But Asmodeus, the leader of Megas-tu, he puts the crew of the Enterprise on trial and allows Spock to speak for them as someone not of Earth, even though he's half human. But he didn't grow up there, so I guess that counts. I don't know what Eric's deal was. They put his head in the chopping block.
That was a note that I had. Like, couldn't Eric's represent? Like, as
maybe he grew up on Earth though. Maybe Eric's lived in Cincinnati, while Spock was growing up on Vulcan. You don't know. You weren't there.
Good point. That's true.
But Kirk is even able to use some of these magic powers himself once Asmodeus decides, okay, humans clearly came here on accident. You're not a threat to us. But Lucian will need to be punished for bringing you in. And Kirk is like, no, I'm going to stand for Lucian. He's actually a cool dude. He just wanted friends to hang out with. He's an extrovert. He just wanted to be social. That's no crime. Don't punish him. I will fight you on behalf of Lucian. And then Asmodeus is like, oh, you have passed the test. You have shown us that humans have evolved since the 1600s, that you now understand compassion. And the devil is saved. And Kirk, not only does he save the devil in the center of the galaxy, but he will go on to murder God in the center of the galaxy in Star Trek V. So
wow,
it's fantastic. I love it.
That was the cherry on top of that summary. Actually, is very...
Yes. And now I will drink beer out of a horn, like Lucian.
Amazing.
Star Trek V, like, too bad he's like, well, we met the devil here already.
Yeah, it's a different center of
drinking Miller Lite.
Well, this is the center of the universe, not the center of the galaxy, I guess. Which is amazing that you could get to the center of the universe.
This is the center of the galaxy. It's the center of the galaxy.
Oh, it's the center of the galaxy, right?
Yeah. Which doesn't mean the Big Bang should be the Big Bang should be from the center of the universe, but they talk about it like it was like the center of the galaxy. But the galaxy itself could have exploded out of a central point. So
yeah. They didn't say Big Bang, did they? I can't remember.
Nice save, actually.
It's pretty easy to tie this into Star Trek V too, because in Star Trek V, when Kirk is saying like no ship has ever returned from the Great Barrier, the opening of this episode when Sulu says center of the galaxy, like we've arrived. I think they've arrived at the Great Barrier, and that storm that they get caught in, that's when they try to enter it. And then later when they try with Cybok, they don't have like that same level of like interference, because it's like the gates of
barrier at the edge of the galaxy, or is it?
Or the Great Barrier, I think the Great
Yeah,
Barrier
that's
is
the
one in the
galactic
middle,
barrier
and the
goes
barrier.
out.
Oh,
And
sorry. Yeah, you're
and
right.
then the
The
Great
outside.
Barrier
Got it.
goes.
Yeah.
That's-
barriers.
We got in the nerdiest conversation right off the bat, which is fun.
Neither one of these barriers. There's zero evidence for either one existing in real life science. That's
Yes.
Right.
like total made up poppycock. But
And they've
that's
reinforced it.
fine.
It's in Star Trek Discovery, at least the exterior one. The what was the one outgoing one called again?
The galactic
I mean, we
barrier.
do
The
have
galactic
a
barrier.
we have the whole the Oort cloud and something. Maybe it's related. It's that on a larger scale or
On
something.
a larger scale. I like that. I like that. And that makes sense, like hurling huge planetoids at the at the systems below. That's kind of an interesting take. I like that. So we already kind of know what Fothery thinks of this episode because that summary was pretty epic. It was worthy of the metal episode that this is. So good job, Father. I was very impressed. Gary, what did you think of this episode?
Mental. In a sense, it was mental because like you see all this crazy magic stuff that is like unbelievable for what you've seen before. But then again, you never know how the laws of physics works. But the one thing that stood out to me from the very beginning, and then I think you touched on that already, how Star Trek V goes to the center of the galaxy. Actually, I just had to watch that scene when Cyborg was talking about going to the center of the galaxy. So they did refer to the center of the galaxy in both the TV episode and in the movie, and they went through the galactic barrier. But then Kirk was saying to Spock that no one ever went to the center of the galaxy. No one ever returned from there. Like, and then I remember when I watched this episode the first time, I was confused because like obviously that was before, but then I watched Star Trek V earlier than I watched Magicks of Megas-tu, and just didn't make sense.
It's possible that the Megans have shut themselves off completely, and so now the world of Shakari is there, which is always there. But before you went to this other dimension and never reached Shakari, and that's why the legend of Shakari came about in the first place. Because you never reach it.
And
But
that's
once
the other thing. It might be just something.
so now it's like Atlantis. It appears only when there's a Megan threat, and then
or
you're God
even,
there instead.
if you think about it, a universe in a universe.
But aside from that, what was your favorite or least favorite part of this episode?
Least favorite part.
Or favorite?
The favorite part was the episode is that I did not recognize Jimmy Doohan doing the voice for Lucian.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It was great. I mean, he did many voices in the animated series, but I had to look to the credits to actually see. It's like, oh my god, that was James Doohan. He is absolutely amazing as a voice actor. But still, kudos to the man.
George Takei got to do the voice of like the disembodied Megans too in this episode, and I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I love that I love that because of for whatever reason, some of the actors get to do like many different roles. I don't think Shatner ever does any other things, right? He just sticks to being Kirk, and the same with Nimoy
the big
and
three didn't do they because you would have probably had to pay them too much. So
absolutely. Aaron, what are your general thoughts on this episode?
I don't. As growing up as a kid, it was sort of like the one I would skip sometimes. I don't know. Just for me, it was. I know everybody was like, oh, I mean, it is crazy, but I think the one thing for me that stood out was the whole Salem, Massachusetts witch trial, because in the early to mid 70s, for some reason that was on everything. Bewitched went to the Salem witch trials. They had like an episode of, I want to say Scooby-Doo or something, like, I don't know. There was just like, so
You're absolutely right. Actually,
I took it like as a like, ooh, I'm going to go to the library and read more about the Salem witch trials. So it was actually sort of, I did learn more about history because of it. So that is sort of like, a Star Trek lesson kind of a thing. But yeah, I think the crazy part is just like, I'm going to draw a pentagram and like use magic. And it was like, as I got older, I'm like, how the hell did this episode get made? And then actually finding out the story of how it got made was just even crazier. So
Yeah, actually, I read in your book how not to plug it. Sorry, this is Aaron doesn't pay me or anything. I just really like this book. But it sounds like a commercial. I'm sorry, but but I read about that some of that story in your book. It's pretty cool. And also, I love the I call it the WTF section where it's like, did he say that? Which we'll go
Yeah.
over. But it's such a great
Well,
book. So.
I'm not 100% sure that James Doohan did do the voice of Lucian, because I know we haven't like I know we didn't like mark it in the book. Whenever we didn't know 100% for sure, we wouldn't put it in there. So
Okay. So
it's
like
not
it's
listed.
chapter
So
is
it
not-
might
is
be
not
somebody
mentioned.
else.
Oh, that's
It
funny.
could
I
be-
assumed it was him too because of some of the words he says. But yeah, it could be.
It
Sorry,
could be.
Aaron?
It just
Mm.
yeah. No, I say it could have been maybe Lou Scheimer or something like that. Probably not. But it was one of those we just didn't 100% know, and it wasn't noted anywhere. So
Right on.
actually, I could ask Larry Brody. I could message him next time I talk with him. I'll ask him because he was there when they were recording, and he said that like all the actors were pretty much there in person, which was always a big bone of contention with anybody we've interviewed. Oh, they were never there. They were always there. There was sometimes it was a mix. It's just like nobody knew. I don't know. It's like it just wasn't on the top of their mind, like the whole process. Of course, for us looking back, like, oh, this is really interesting. For them, they just like it got recorded. They were excited. So
Exactly. No. Exactly.
and he was
very,
just like,
very
I guess
cool.
Walter Koenig was there. I'm like, why was Walter there? It's like he wasn't in the show, and like the only thing we thought of is that maybe he was just watching the process because he had written an episode. But and again, then Larry is also could have been wrong that he was there. It's just like
Right.
everybody. We see these episodes all the time and we think very clearly about it. But these people did this 45, 50 years ago, so they have no. It's like
Yeah.
to them it was a job. So sometimes it's
Right.
It's hard to remember that the details for us are like just their everyday.
You're
job.
telling me you don't remember what you were doing at work decades ago on like the specific day, like on like December 14th, 1999. You don't remember what you did at work that day?
I actually do, but that's okay. I was working on the Men's Warehouse website, and it was a nightmare because they wanted us to work on New Year's Eve going into to the year 2000, and we're like, no, we're not going to do that. This is kind of a momentous time. We're like, we're going to go watch the Hollywood sign get lit up, which it
Yeah,
got lit
they
up on
wanted
the
you to miss
screen.
New Year's going into 2000. Like that's nuts.
You should
Yeah.
have been like, no, I got to go prep for Y2K. Like, the
Well,
apocalypse
yeah,
might
there was
be
also
happening.
that. It was like, I think by then nobody thought it was actually going to happen, even though they were still hyping it up on the news. But yeah, so that's hilarious that you mentioned that specific day because like that, I do remember.
well, very cool.
Sorry.
I can't remember things from like the last 5 years, like half the stuff from the last 5 years. Father's always reminding me of stuff I said, and then I look back at my videos. I'm like, oh, I did say that. Oh, okay, wow.
Sometimes I don't remember on my podcast. I'm like, oh, when so and so said that. I'm like, I said that.
I'm one of those assholes that I love correcting people. So anytime I can find like a contradiction somewhere, and be like, that's not what you said last time. So
I actually enjoy
Yeah.
being corrected, so I think it's great that we found each other, Father. So correct away.
But Aaron, I would love to talk to Larry Brody because I have questions. Like I'm convinced that he, like I think I can guess like what music he was listening to in the 70s just by watching this episode.
We asked him stuff like that, and it was just like he was like, it wasn't drugs, it wasn't music, and I'm just like, okay, sure, we just like we don't know if that was actually true or not, but
it's
it seemed
possible
like
he has synesthesia. I grew up being accused of being a stoner. I am now, but I grew up being accused of being a stoner because of my art and references and just the way I spoke about things. And I wasn't, but I have synesthesia, so maybe he has synesthesia and came up with these wild ideas. Now it's a different story. It actually expanded.
But I know he went on to, I guess, be the showrunner on the Silver Surfer animated series from like 1998-ish. I remember
Oh,
it came out on Fox like 97, 98, 99, somewhere around there.
That's cool.
So I'm wondering if like he was like really into like Jim Starlin comics and stuff like that in the 70s, because like a lot of the trippy cosmic stuff
Well,
kind of
he was
parallels
talked
with.
about going to a bookstore on Fairfax that was sort of like those early, it was the Magic bookstore where you'd have all these, books about spells and you get tarot cards and things like that. So he had a whole library of those sort of books where he got like Asmodeus, and that's where some of this information came from. So I could see that.
Right on. Right on. Well, he wrote a pretty rad episode. I don't think I remember this episode from when I was a kid. When I was a
The
kid.
interesting thing, really quick about that,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that
yeah.
he wrote the episode, but he says none of the dialogue or what he actually wrote is what he wrote. Gene rewrote everything.
Oh,
He goes, it's
wow.
the same story, same character
Mhm.
motivations, everything, except it's just not my dialogue. And I guess
Well,
Gene saw it as, being a mentor, and we were talking about his, like, and then nobody wants to ever say, well, maybe that wasn't like the best thing to do, because like they're worried to offend the ghost of Gene Roddenberry. Like somehow he's gonna come back and get them. So they don't. But he said that now he took on that role, and with young writers he'll do the same thing. He sort of mentors them, and but tries to do it in a little bit more gentle way than just completely blindsiding them by like, here's your copies, I'll change, bye. So, yeah.
Gene Roddenberry definitely then in that case his influence here makes me believe. I have this theory that not in universe maybe, but definitely this is kind of like a proto kind of treatment that he used, or whatever, that he used a lot of these concepts to create the Q continuum, even the trial on
Mankind on
humanity.
Trial.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
whole thing. Yeah,
Trelane also attempted,
right.
in Squire of
Right.
Gothos. But yeah,
Yeah, rewatching this, I was like, oh wait, this is the Q continuum. How did I not see this before?
Right on. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not saying that they are in canon that way, but yeah, definitely seeing the connection. Maybe there is an in canon way to prove it, but who knows?
Maybe they
That's up to
evolve
the
into the Q continuum.
Yeah, it's up to the writers of Star Trek,
Roddenberry,
current Star Trek.
when he really liked an idea, he was never ashamed, to reuse it. With the motion picture borrows a lot from the Nomad episode, The Changeling.
Speaking of borrowing, V'ger Fly Through and Shakari, like all here, like evolving an idea. But I think this is more, in my opinion, this is more cool looking. Like I kind of wish that the all blue Shakari thing was more like this, like just wild storms of color.
I
and,
love
like,
I love the
explosions.
style. I love the vibe of this. It's
The one in the
kinda
middle,
like
far right,
it's
looks like
retro.
they're flying through like blood palette or
Right.
that's interesting.
I like the Asmodeus, not the Asmodeus, the Lucien rainbow version on the bottom left corner. I feel like that could make a great T-shirt or something. But yeah, this was a really cool kind of thing. But I immediately thought like, oh man, I wish that's got to be like somehow have inspired V'ger and the whole like galactic barrier thing.
There's a lot of great visuals.
Yeah,
This episode has just a ton of visuals that I love.
I mean,
Just,
Great Barrier.
the devil handing an apple to Dr. McCoy. Spock
Yeah.
drawing a pentagram on the floor of the Enterprise so that he can practice his black magic. There's just a lot of cool stuff in here.
I don't have the shots from it in here. I don't know why I chose not to, but the GIF meme that you see everywhere of everyone falling is from this episode, like of the end. There's a lot of cool.
I love that they're shaking,
GIFs,
and then there's one like the hallway isn't shaking, so the woman just goes, look, just falls over for no reason.
Yeah, I've always wanted to like caption that GIF of her falling over with "I can't even."
Yeah,
I think that'd be a great reaction GIF.
we can do that. I can make you one.
Audrey, I have an idea for your because this is something I feel like you could do on your Discord watch-alongs. As a patron, may I interject here on my show and suggest a watch along of this, but reworked where we edit in metal music instead of like so that it's like, you know,
Well,
a metal extravaganza for 30 minutes.
I shouldn't talk about this, but there's been long-term plans for a project involving Magicks of Megas-tu, but no, I don't know if or when it's ever going to happen, but if it does, y'all will be the first to know.
I think at the very least you should curate a metal playlist that we can play while watching this episode, just to be delighted by your choices. I think.
But if you play
Yeah, like
Dark
the,
Side of the Mood with this, does it all match up?
Yeah, you gotta make it match up exactly. That's
I've actually kind of experimented with that, but I don't want to reveal what because I haven't gotten things that like quite work, but there's a couple songs I have in there, but it's hard to like release stuff like that because, you know, copyright infringement and things, but yeah, I'd like to make like at least like a little like private thing that I can show people, but I don't know. It's there. I want to do something like really cool with this episode and with music though at some point. I'll just leave it at that.
Cool.
Nice. All right, cool. Good to know. Joel says Black Sabbath and Venom played over this is his suggestion.
I'm a fan of both of them.
And Jill points out that Lucien has such white teeth, and it's true. He really does.
Yes,
what do you guys think?
Like the uncolored paper is white.
Do you guys? I never associated this like the satyr with the devil, which is what he appears to me as. I'm thinking of him more as like Bacchus, like a Bacchanalia and stuff like that. But I guess the devil to me is more like his horns would be bigger and he'd have like crazy eyes and like bat wings and shit like that.
Yeah. It's kind of like I don't know, like at some point in the Middle Ages, I think this would have been like a common image of the devil.
It's possible. I don't know. He's always got like a goat's head for some reason in depictions that I've seen, but
the cloven hooves are correct.
Are definitely reminiscent. But it reminded me of a classical music piece that I love, which is a ballet called Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun, and it's taken in a non-metal direction. I imagine Lucien more like one of those satyr fawns, you know, like and it would be cool to have like actually if they ever do a live action version, like to have a dancer almost do the body movements and stuff like that.
I would love for Lucien to show up in a future Star Trek show at some point, but I think the only place that has like a good home for him would be Lower Decks. He would fit like a glove on that show. Like imagine like him and Mariner wanting to hang out.
Any other thoughts on Lucien, guys?
I did like when Sulu conjures the woman, but it turns into the shirtless Lucien. Like, well, that fits.
Yeah, that's true.
That awakens something in Sulu.
Yeah, exactly. I always love this pic, the one that you have up on the screen right now, where Kirk is all just sort of like melted and warped.
Yeah, Lucien, do something. Our captain is melted.
Like, oh, you're so attached to your whatever. How did you say that?
Your form, like
your solid
corporeal
state form. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I
just
also
randomly
like
turns
the,
himself into a little kid for no reason.
Well, that's the other thing that reminded me of the Q. Like, and he actually literally snaps. I think I caught it. Like he snaps, and you know the effect is like basically the same. But anything like Q does that. Like he'll mention something, like say a phrase, and actually make it happen. So it feels like when he was talking about Child's Play, that's what he said. But it is trippy because you have this weird top that's like glowing and like spinning and like you know there's like a weird, like you said, Father, there's so much crazy symbolism in this.
He was saying that let the child play, or it's a child's play.
Yeah, he said it's just child's play.
Yeah.
And actually his over the topness reminds me specifically of Delancey's Q. And so if they are the Q in some way in a different point in their evolution, even though it's only 100 years for humans, it could have been like billions of years for the Q.
Right.
You know, it's possible that that this is the one that becomes John Delancey's version of Q.
No, Lucien is so much more cooler than Q. Like, Q is kind of a jerk, you know. Lucien is like, I like
Yeah,
y'all.
he's
I'm a
everyone's
fan
friend,
of
yeah.
humanity. Yeah, like he never wanted to put us on trial. He just wanted to hang out with us. He's like, oh, cool. I'm so glad y'all came to visit me. It's just randomly. I rewatched the Keanu Reeves movie, The Devil's Advocate,
Mm.
recently.
Yes.
It's a really good movie. But Al Pacino, I guess slight spoilers for a 23-year-old movie. Al Pacino is the devil in that movie, and he says, like, I'm a fan of man. It's the other guy upstairs. He's the one who's always, trying
Oh,
to
I remember
punish
that speech,
mankind.
yeah.
I like man. I root for man. So kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, Lucien is like my favorite depiction of the devil in like any fictional context. And yeah, he just seems like a cool. I mean, he's a little hardcore. He'd be like the guy who's like, okay, it's getting late, but he's like, oh well, let's just go to this. I know this other cool bar, like a couple blocks away. Let's just go over there, drink some more, like keep the party going. He'd be a bit like that, but yeah, like maybe not like every weekend, but yeah, from time to time, I don't want to go kick it with Lucien.
Yeah, he's definitely portrayed
He's a
as that
party
kind of
animal.
as a he is, and he says like if you've come to revel with me, I'll not let you down or something like that. He's so. By the way, I love this word radamanthus. It's like he's like a king of old or something like that, but Lucien uses that word instead of like abracadabra, and so I feel like I want to say this all the time now. Radamanthus.
That probably all comes from those books that Larry had.
We get like an explanation that everyone on this planet is equal, or this like world or this dimension is equal. There are no rivals. We get the understanding that everyone practices a very unique and specialized form of magic, except for Lucian, who's known as the generalist, apparently, among them. So it's an interesting kind of society. And again, give me just major Q vibes and stuff like that. And, just like, again, kind of like, I'm like, ha. Even though the Q are pretty vague, we don't know a lot about the Q, I guess. I haven't gotten to those Voyager episodes yet. But I understand we'll
The
find out
bottom
more.
left reminds me of...
You've seen...
Go ahead.
Sorry, Starfleet boy. You've seen every Q episode in Voyager except for Q2 in season 7.
Oh, okay, then I just I don't remember them
Q2.
because I don't remember them because I fell asleep, which is something that happens. I apologize. I watch Voyager in bed at night, and I shouldn't do that. It's not Voyager's fault, by the way. It's me. But what were you gonna say about the bottom left image, Aaron?
Oh, they remind me of the in Logan's Run. The
Oh,
when they
yeah.
go to renew. It sort of looks like those robes and stuff. Not exactly, but it has a little bit of that vibe.
Yeah,
It
they're
does.
very like druid-ish to me. Like I get like druid vibes, which would have been kind of a like Led Zeppelin was leaning into that imagery around this time.
I just love the fact that they had Dumbledore playing a construction guy.
Where?
Dumbledore.
Oh, right there. That's true. That's right. He was the one.
I had to take my sorcerer
I like that he
contract
called
to
it-
a small claims court. It messed up my kitchen completely.
That's right. I'm like, wait, Dumbledore? I got all excited. I would love a print or a poster and there's a further out image later on of this picture of Earth. I just think it's darling the way it's like drawn and illustrated and
It's
stuff.
kind of the pale blue dot.
It is. It has that vibe, yeah. And Sub Commander Tall, who's in the audience, couldn't make it today. He's cracking nuts. Don't ask. But anyways, he also pointed out that it reminded him of the one in the Jetsons, and I love the way that one is illustrated too. I'm having such a rediscovery of the artwork of this time, and I'm now understanding where a lot of my like preferred aesthetics come from, and it's really cool to like see that maybe Star Trek the Animated Series and all of these like series of that time is where I get that from. But I think it's like definitely, again, folks always talk about like the low budget. I'm like, what does low budget really mean with art? Like an artist can put in so much effort and get paid so little for it, and so it's different, right?
And the
Like,
speed at
These
which they had to do these
CGI
episodes is also
animators.
crazy. It was like 3 weeks from concept to completion,
Yeah.
sort of a thing. So it's like you don't have a lot of
Right.
time, so you have to kind of stylize things.
Yeah, if it's not your taste or stuff, that's a different conversation. But I just can't
Yes.
understand why folks harp on the budget. It's like,
Well, I've also just the whole like, oh, it's bad animation. No, it was
Yeah,
animation of the time. For
Yeah.
the time, it actually was really good. No, it wasn't. It was like then I'll find articles from animation magazines that they're just gushing over the backgrounds and everything. It's just like, wow, this show is so much better than your average like Scooby Doo or something.
Right.
So it's like at the time, at least they certainly thought it was better.
for the time and like context, it was like, yeah, and that's true with Star Trek of all of its incarnations. To be honest, like, you look back at TOS and it's easy to make those same assumptions of the original series live action, but when you go back and read those articles and realize actually no, Star Trek had a pretty good budget, and for the time that
That's
I don't see
one
those
of the
wall
reasons why
Yeah.
they kept trying to cancel it is because the original series was so expensive. It's like, yeah, it's a good show, but it's it ain't one of like the top 5 shows, and it's too expensive for us to keep doing this after 3 seasons.
This was the most expensive cartoon on television at the time, mostly because of the budget for the voice actors. So, but
Right on. But here they're back on the ship, and Lucien's trying to hide them away because he doesn't want him to get caught by the other Megans. And so then Spock realizes that you could do magic in this universe, in this dimension. And I kind of like this, but it is funny to see the pointy-eared one that everyone like references as a devil drawing the pentagram here. But also it's a weird extension of the Lucien and the devil metaphor, which is kind of cool as well. So
it's Vulcan chess, not 3-dimensional chess.
it's apparently Vulcan chess has really large pieces. Father, take over. I need to answer the door.
Well, this moment here was I think just having the fact that this image exists of Spock drawing a pentagram on the floor is that just like makes my heart happy. It's one of the reasons why I did like fall in love with the animated series so much after I kind of reevaluated it, and it's like, yeah, like I really want Spock drawing a pentagram to be canon. So I'm thankful for the animated series for making that. But yeah, Lucien calls him a elf, or he calls him like an elven dude.
Oh yeah,
earlier in the episode. So yeah, it does kind of match just like the imagery of like this like logical science-based character. He does kind of just the optics on it. It looks appropriate to see him becoming the mystic or like the magical creature.
I think it's interesting that we're seeing all this and it's just like, oh, how did they do this? Like the fact that they originally wanted to make it was supposed to be God. Larry Brody's first script was like, he's like. One of the reasons he pitched that idea is that he knew that Gene liked those type of stories, and then he would read it and go, "Oh, I would love to see that." And yes, you've done it like 5 times. Of course you would. So he pitched this, and basically it came down to the network said people will get very upset if you get God wrong, but nobody cares how you depict the devil. So they're like, okay.
But even then, apparently they had calls, right? Like,
yeah, not a ton, but I think it was mostly in the South and stuff like that. But
imagine if he did this today, though.
Yeah,
I think it'd be even more of a reaction.
Oh yeah,
today.
That's interesting to think of.
Yeah, I think you could get away with more back then in some ways, especially because it was no one's paying attention to it. It's kids' TVs, it's like it's just discardable entertainment that nobody cares about. Even though it wasn't really meant for kids.
Right. No, exactly.
Can you go back one picture?
Yes.
There, you see the rare times you see the second turbo lift on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look
which
at that.
was in the Franz Joseph technical manual.
Yeah, it's true.
Came after this, I think.
yeah.
By the way, Joel,
got that from the animated series.
By the way,
and
Joel,
you know why they put that in there originally?
Why is that? Oh, I know, because the tilt of the bridge, right?
No, because they made it so characters could walk on from one and then walk back out where they didn't have to flip them and reanimate the badge on the other side. They literally used it once and you never even saw the person go in the door. So it's a good idea. They just didn't utilize it. I guess they didn't need people to come on and then go off and, Yeah,
That's very cool.
but that was kind of a cool idea.
I just wanted to say to Joel in our audience that I'm not drinking wine. It's tea, but it might have a little gin in it, which is different. So no, I just think it doesn't.
I'm drinking. I have beer in my horn, like Lucian.
I thought about getting whiskey, but I guess I should have done that.
Yeah, just all of a sudden like I remembered like literally like minutes before we went live. I was like, oh, I could put beer in this horn and drink it.
You actually have a horn. That's awesome. I think you've drunk out of it before on Starfleet.
I have a couple. I have a couple of horns.
Ooh, I'll be right back.
No problem. Some commander says Apollo called him Pan, referring to the character.
Yeah,
like
that's
the hook
that's another
character.
good point. Is that Apollo and his people who took the form of the Greek gods when they visited Earth, they could be
Right.
Megans.
Right. Oh yeah.
There.
Ooh, look at that.
Aaron has a
Hold on. Is that
what do you
Stein.
call that? Yeah,
a Stein? Yes. Blizzard. Oh,
that.
rad.
Yeah. It just
I need to
doesn't-
borrow that from you for tomorrow. I'm going to this German town here in Texas, New Braunfels, for their Bratwurst festival called Wurstfest. It's a pretty big event, but
That's great that
Yeah,
they call it the Worst Fest, like as in sausage.
Here, let me turn that there. Now you can see it better.
I mean,
There you
it is,
go.
it is a literal sausage festival. But,
Oh, nice.
That's
That's got a cool proper pewter top and everything. Wow. That's
Yeah.
rad.
I've actually drank out of it. It's been had change in it lately, so I'm not going to actually drink anything out of it. But
do y'all know why they invented?
Gary,
those-
do you have
those
a
lids?
drinking vessel? Oh wait, what is that?
Do y'all know why they invented those lids on top of steins like that? Because during the bubonic plague, when everyone was sick, they'd be like coughing in each other's drink, so they put those steins on there so that like you wouldn't get other people's
Oh.
germs in your beer.
they didn't know what
That's so
germs
smart.
were. But
I guess you're coughing crud in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was before germ theory, which wasn't until like the 1800s, right?
something like that.
I like how we went off on this tangent, but it's related. It's
We can
we're
talk about
reveling.
Sliders episode where antibiotics weren't invented. And
Starring
Kinda
Jack
relate.
Ransom.
yeah, exactly. There you go.
All right, guys, what's up with Sulu? Why was he conjuring an airline stewardess?
Was
from,
this
like, the
Gene's idea?
1980s?
That's gotta be a Gene
100%.
Roddenberry idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, what would Sulu wish for? Oh, I, Gene Roddenberry, horniest man in the world. I know he would wish for a gorgeous, sexy Japanese babe. It's like, no,
Airline
that's what you
stewardess.
wish for, Gene.
Japan Airlines airline stewardess from the 1960s is what he was. It's like so weird.
Now I want to see what their uniforms actually look like.
Didn't Gene and Majel, didn't they get married in Japan? Wearing like a kimono or
Oh,
something?
is that right?
Yeah, she had a kimono. I don't know if it was in Japan, but she had the whole
Yeah, they had like a Japanese themed wedding.
yeah, which now
I
I'm
guess-
sure would be totally not problematic.
Yeah, cultural appropriation probably wasn't in
Yeah.
the lexicon in 1969.
No.
Daniel Sia, welcome to the chat here.
Hi,
Says
Dan.
that this episode has some interesting messages about letting fear, tradition, and superstition cloud our faith and judgment. That's true. It's a good point. Really true. But I do think that this part's really scary when the Megans put the weird ghosts. It reminds me of Indiana Jones Raiders. You know, it was kind of like that kind of
Poltergeist a
vibe.
little bit too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Poltergeist had
strong
that kind of vibe,
poltergeist
too.
vibes.
And then the Megans, these guys are nuts. They actually like tear they like make the Enterprise glow, and then I don't have the shot here, but you can see it being split in half here, and they
Oh, that
like
was what I
tear
was
it
gonna put behind
apart.
me.
Oh, nice. That's
I
a good
should've done
image. Yeah.
that.
And then they blow it up. So obviously it can be reversed by their magic as well, but that's nuts that they did that. I thought that was like really wild. I was like, okay. And then this is when the episode like again reminded me just so much of like shenanigans the Q would do. We're actually in Salem. Our folks are actually like tied up, or like, you know, it looks like Salem very correctly. But this is such an interesting image that I'm thinking like this is so wild. Like if you look at it at first and then you notice Eric's, all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? Like it could actually be Salem, like or a picture from like a witch trial or something like that. but yeah, it's a cool moment. And Asmodeus, who is putting them on trial, he's the chief Megan, I guess. Um, uh, you know, I love just like his whole thing of like how he reveals who he is. What is Asmodeus again? Like he's the what does he say though? Look upon me, or what is it? Damn. Hold on, I wrote it down. I have it here in my notes. Do you guys remember?
He said a lot of stuff.
But it
I
was like,
mean,
oh, what was the line? Someone in the audience help me out here. It's like bear upon my visage or something like that. I forget.
When he's like, I am the one who sees all things, or something like
Yes,
that.
something like seer of all things, bear look
Yeah.
upon me, so you may see all things, or something like that. It was like
Well,
that's a
you're-
famous
you're-
thing that Asmodeus actually says. So I thought that was cool. What was
I
that?
love that he appears in the form of a pilgrim, because if you think about it, like, yeah, like his people, I guess immigrant might be more appropriate than pilgrim. That's kind of like a
Here it is.
specific thing, but yeah, like they traveled from their home world to Earth, and then on Earth, when they were persecuted, they tried to escape that, I guess, by fleeing to Salem, and then when they were persecuted there, they just straight up left Earth. And so I like that, like he's like adopted like the appearance of a pilgrim, because he's
A
kind of like this
pilgrim,
guy
yeah,
who's,
that's
like,
true.
always traveling from home to home.
So it says, then hear this, know that one upon your world I was known as Asmodeus, he who sees all, gaze upon my countenance so that you may see. And then the images
That-
of the story, basically. Yeah, we came to your world as friends, but wherever we went, the story was the same. Humans would attempt to use us to gain power, to serve their own greed and lust. So yeah,
And he's the real devil. That's what it was. The prince of demons. That's what I was trying to like remember. But that's what he says. That same thing. Look upon
Yeah.
my So,
and
there,
his
there they go.
the
Like
actor was from UFO and I think 2001: Space Odyssey.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's right. But yeah, great scene, great stuff. They flash back and talk about all that, and we see those the druid-looking versions of the Megans again, and here's Lucien, like, where he reveals to Kirk and crew that like what's really behind all this is fear, because they're too afraid to like put themselves out there again, basically. To be persecuted and burned. I mean, like, actually, it's like, it is pretty horrifying when you think about what humans did. And then this is where we talked about this earlier, but Spock gets to represent humanity here, or at least advocate for them. And then I like the part with the tapes, by the way, where he's like, "Look at our records, look at our tapes," and then he like throws them all out. And they're actual like reel to reel tapes,
And
which is not and punch cards,
Yeah.
which like
These beings are so advanced that they can just look at that stuff and then like know the information that's on
right.
it.
No, but it's just a cool image too, because I guess they have reel to reels on the Enterprise, like in the live action series. Like, I know they had like the cards that they called tapes, but I don't think they actually had like tapes and punch cards.
I don't
right?
think we ever saw an actual tape,
Yeah.
but
But
I
I like
assume
that they
like
do
those
it here.
cards had tapes in them, like kind of like a cassette tape.
Well, no, those are punch cards, so like they're gonna be like old fashioned punch cards. So I imagine the Enterprise could have that technology somewhere, because like, as we've established, like, it might have just been like how they were choosing, there might have been some reason they were using those aesthetics, but like, I also like the idea that it's like way more advanced than tapes and punch cards would ever be in our time. And it's just like
we still use
backup, yeah.
use tapes for like storage. Like there's like high level capacity data storage that still uses tapes.
Yeah.
Well, we're soon hopefully going to go to crystals, which is pretty exciting, because you can record information on like many different planes on the crystal, and so it potentially can increase the way that that you store data. But yeah, I loved all this stuff. This was cool, the trial, and then they decide, okay, fine, the humans are not a threat, but you, Lucien, we're gonna punish you.
Like that image there of like the witch hunter pointing at the devil. That's cool. That's just, I don't know. That's just really really awesome. If you're into that type of stuff.
Gary, do you know this part of American history much? The Salem witch trials and all that stuff? Ah, okay. I was wondering. I don't think it's taught too much abroad, but
Well,
it's not really
just
taught too much these days in schools. I guess they're trying to like
Not
read or watch the Crucible, the play about the Salem witch trials, which I think was meant to be an allegory for the, I guess, McCarthyism in America in the 50s and 60s.
Just like a constant like attempt by terrible people to scapegoat another, or the other, and just we see myriad times in history that this comes up. Scarlet Letter's like that too, right? No, they don't accuse her. Hester's not a witch. They don't accuse her of being a witch. I don't think. Maybe they do. They definitely brand her for committing adultery, and then I think she has to go through a trial or something like that. But yeah, it was an awful time, and this was one of the bad times. But yeah, pilgrims were hardcore.
Were there any good times in American history?
I don't know. I feel like there's like little pockets of good times.
I mean, I feel like
maybe
any
the
time,
80s, I don't know.
any time prior to the civil rights movement automatically is not a good time.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good.
Be like the
that's a
day
good point.
that World War II ended, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Hey,
One
I got
day.
it, Father. The good times are ahead. We're still making. It's up to us to
Okay.
make the good times come. Right?
It's a very Roddenberry way of looking at it. Now,
Yeah, it's true. But Captain
Message
Kirk,
brought to you by Starfleet Boy.
Captain Kirk, egged on or encouraged by Spock very sweetly, becomes like this super being of magic, and I love this.
Yeah.
And I was putting the rainbow flag because that was the closest thing, but it's actually fruit striped gum, as Aaron pointed out, which is the pattern of the colors that he exudes his magic with. So,
And then sponsorship deal that fell through or something. They just took the name off.
And then we get a proper wizards duel in this episode as well, which is pretty awesome.
Reminds me of God Mode Ransom in Stranger
Yes, it's true.
Lower Deck season 2 premiere.
He tried to eat the ship.
I mean, Kirk handles the magic abilities better than Jack Ransom did. Obviously, of course he would. Why wouldn't he?
I really loved William Shatner's voice acting in this part. You actually did feel like he was like struggling, like in the way that in his like inflections and stuff. He was like, like doing some of the spoken word stuff he's famous for later. Like slowing down. I felt like the wind was like preventing him from talking. Did you guys notice that at all, or was it just me?
Well, and as far as we know, that they were actually all together. For this episode. So that I think helps actually. You've got people. He's actually acting against something and someone, as opposed to just talking in a hotel room, which is what happened a lot apparently when they were on the road. They would just grab a tape player and send the tapes in.
Yeah, him and Nimoy were both really busy during this time, right? They were like doing plays and stuff.
And, yep.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were both very like
that they were in person with.
They were both very like hardworking actors. And did a lot of work for different reasons. Shatner because he got divorced in like 69 or 70, right? And his wife took
something like that.
Took everything, so he's trying to make up for that. And then Nimoy, it kind of had like that, that old school work ethic of like, well, I'm never going to turn down a job, so I'm going to do as much work as possible.
Cake is Eternal says, I'm floppy disk old. I am too.
No, which form of floppy disk? That's the question.
5 1/4. Is that the size? The bigger ones?
Yeah.
No.
I never had a computer that used those.
They were cool because you took them out and then you flipped them and then you put them back in to read the rest of the program.
We had one at school, but I didn't have a home. By the time I got a home computer, they had already gone to the 3.5.
I loved a true floppy disk because it did feel neat. Like when you stacked a bunch of them, there was like a little bit of air compression going on, and you could just like there's like a neat feeling. Or they just looked elegant in their like Rolodex like boxes that you would put them in. They just looked, flipping through them felt nice. It's like little mini records, actually, is what it was like. Kind of. It's a weird thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My dad's company had like the big tape things that we were talking about, like because I remember we went in and he's just like, here, play. It was a King's Quest had just come out.
Nice.
So on the floppy, thing. I'm sitting at his console, and in the other room through the glass, you can see the wheels, like the tape running, kind of like if you watch old Wonder Woman or Bionic Woman or something like that, where they've got you always see the tape machines zipping around.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, to be fair, I was making that comment about the reel-to-reels, but today we still use them to back up large amounts of data as well.
Yeah.
It's actually a really viable way to back up data, so it's possible that there exists in the 23rd century as a reliable way as well.
Yeah,
so.
especially if you're just storing things, if you don't need it to be like constantly accessible.
Right.
But yeah, if you just need it like backed up somewhere, then it's a very efficient way of storing stuff.
Wow, we're almost at the end, but I love that we went on that computers tangent. Thank you, Cake as a Turtle, or Jill for asking what size. Gary's very young. He doesn't remember floppy disks. Did you have floppy disks, Gary, when you were a kid? CDs, or CD-ROM, right?
In Netcafe with 5 of them, used then Windows Commander to slice up files, and hoping when I get home, all 5 floppy disks will be working.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there was a big failure rate. You're right. I forgot about that.
Oh, I had a Star Trek game on a floppy disk. There's a game that came out in 1991 for the 25th anniversary, PC game, where I didn't get to play it much because the disc actually broke. That little like metal thing that like slid across. Like that, like broke off.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't remember much about the game, but like I know you could like beam down with a landing party on a planet with Kirk, McCoy, Spock, and a security officer. And if the security officer died, it was fine. But if anyone else died, it was game over.
Oh wow.
So basically, like the red shirt could die, but no one else could.
There's like a really old one called Star Trek Judgment Rights. Maybe that was the one.
That might have been it, but yeah, I know for a fact it came out in 91. So whatever PC game came out in 91, that's the one I'm talking about. This is a 25th anniversary thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, by the way, I meant to mention earlier. The episode ends with them revealing that the whole scenario was just a test and humanity's passed. So they're gonna lower the shields, lower the gates that prevent people from coming here and fill it with like physics that work for both, I guess, so they can breathe or whatever when they get there and all that stuff. But the planet Megas-tu to me resembles a blood orange, and I love it.
Oh yeah.
It looks like a big red fruit.
It does. I kind of love
That's where the fruit stripe gum comes in.
But anyways, just in time here to say that it is an earthly delight to toast to people and things, and so we finished this episode. So cheers to you guys. Thank you very much. I had fun. What didn't we cover? I didn't feel like we covered everything, right?
I love the fact that Schwarzenegger was dubbing Captain Kirk in this picture.
It does look like that.
I know. I chose that picture on purpose because I thought it was funny, his like startled expression. But from now on,
if they're implying that it's beer, I think too, which is interesting because that wouldn't happen today either.
Yeah,
like
it's true.
Aaron Waltke was talking about how really strict they are about implying anything like that on Nickelodeon.
Oh, interesting.
They were going to do Romulan bubbly at one time, like mentioned, and they're like they couldn't do that. So yeah.
This is how I'm ending these episodes from now on, is with Sulu winking. I think this is like my favorite. I would love to have the cell. Someone probably already has this, but I would love the cell for that.
You're the most scrutable man I know.
Oh, the ratings. Don't worry, Jill. I'm getting to that. We're about to sign off here. So I will give my final thoughts and rating first. I give this episode a 100. I love it. It's just like it's such a unique episode. No, it gets a 10, a solid 10. It's such a unique episode of Star Trek. It's delightful for all the reasons we talked about. But there's like Jill mentioned on Twitter. There's every time you watch it, there's like new references that you kind of catch, and it's true. They
Yeah.
just kind of like in a good way threw the spaghetti on the wall and saw what stuck, and everything seems to stick actually. So I think this one was a winner for me. But yeah, just like wild visuals. I loved seeing the connections that at least in my mind, with the hindsight of like so much more Trek history, that this episode could have inspired visually, like the V'ger fly through, as well as the stuff about Shakari. But then in this conversation, I kind of solidify my idea that this episode was probably the source of inspiration for the Q and the Q Continuum as well. So yeah, it's an awesome episode of Star Trek. I think it's a good one if you're exploring Star Trek deeper and you want to like go back and see where like some of these like things came from, watch, but also just the fun one. And I look forward to Fathery's metal playlist to accompany it on my next rewatch. So yeah, there you go. Gary, tell us your rating and your final thoughts on this episode. And it's 1 through 10, by the way, just to refresh your memory. Or you could say a silly rating, or you can opt out of rating altogether. It's just a silly thing. It doesn't mean anything.
Ratings do not mean anything because it's a personal choice. But it was an enjoyable episode. So that's my rating. Enjoyable episode. The one thing I'm not sure if being like talked about but the one thing I kind of started thinking when I was watching the episode that. Could this be, and again, saying with the utmost respect, could this be an explanation of how religion came to Earth as well? Because, the Megans went there to help. They gave their ideas to men, and then they fought back with, like, this is not the way how we want to do, and then then maybe it stuck with some people, and then they kind of incorporated it, and then became something big. Again, just another,
interestingly, yeah, if the Megans arrived at a point in history where they were like the classical gods or whatever, that came back and bit them in the butt later.
You also have what's his name from How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth.
Oh yeah, Kukulkan.
Kukulkan, yeah, it's like maybe they were.
Marvel is trying to steal from us because
I saw that.
Namor, the Submariner, is also going by Kukulkan in the new Black Panther movie. I'm like, no. We've been doing Kukulkan since the 70s. Like, y'all get to claim him.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, in a sense, it kind of connects to the notion of the Mintakans in TNG as well. Like the basic principle, like some alien creatures end up in a planet, they suddenly start worshiping them, and then they become a point of like a civil movement of like, hey, this is not right, this is right, and then they start fighting each other, and then that's almost.
We were the Mintakans. The humans were the Mintakans long ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
There we have it. Good point. We didn't go over that, so nice to throw that in your closing. Good way to close out too. See, this episode's rad. Like it, just like so many things you can discover through this episode. I'm gonna call it a pivotal. I'm gonna start referring to it as a pivotal episode of Star Trek. Fathery, what have you got going on in your world? Awesome text track last night with you and Aaron here, who's here, and Aaron Walkie, who sometimes is in our audience, and he's just so generous with like fans in general. So tell folks what's going on, but also first your rating and your final thoughts.
Well, final thoughts on this episode. This is always going to be one of my favorites of Star Trek, just because it is the Star Trek episode that also kind of crosses over into metalhead territory for me. So that gives it a very special place in my heart. And as much as I love the animated series, as much as I loved Yesteryear, like everyone else, I like this episode more. Just for me, it's just like this is like my like one of my personal favorites. But there's still another episode of the animated series we haven't gotten to yet that I like even more than this, which is my favorite episode of the animated series. So that'll be coming up soon. I would rank this episode a 6 out of 10. And as for Text Trek, yes, we did have the wonderful Aaron Waltke on the show last night. You can watch that on YouTube. We talked about the episode he wrote, this most recent episode of Star Trek Prodigy that just came out a couple days ago. The All the World's a Stage, or whatever it is. I don't know, some Shakespearean shit, but it was a good episode.
You got it right. All the World's a Stage.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun discussing it with not just the writer of the episode, but like the head writer on the TV show. So he was a lot of fun, and that will be available to listen to wherever you get your podcast Monday, and we'll continue to be covering every episode of Prodigy, and then we'll do some DS9 talk around the first of the year while we're waiting on Picard season 3 to get back. So lots of fun stuff going on over on Text Trek. You can check us out Fridays at 7 p.m. Central and listen to the show later wherever you get your podcast.
Two things. I like that Lucien's abs show when I put comments up on the thing, and it's actually connected to Aaron somehow. So if you lean this way, you'd have abs showing like the other way.
My automatic adjusting camera won't.
Oh, that's right. That's
I
remember. That's right. That's pretty cool.
Follows me.
Mine does that too when I have it on the computer. That is pretty funny. Wow, look. There we go.
Yeah.
The other thing is don't burn the aliens. Jill wants to know if you can give us a hint about your favorite episode, or do you want to save it for when you want to hype it later?
Let's just let's be patient. If you go listen to the Text Trek podcast we did on the animated series, there's 2 episodes of Text Trek. Forget the exact numbers, but we did one with Aaron here, and then we did one with Rich Shepus. This was in like the summer of 2020. Through those 2 podcast episodes, we cover all of the animated series, and I do point out my favorite when we cover it there.
Oh, right on. Okay, so we'll go check that out. Excellent. Do you remember what number Text Trek that is?
If you ask Aaron what he thought about this episode, I will
yes,
be able to
I am going to
up.
ask him. Excellent. Aaron, give some final thoughts, a rating if you choose, and tell us what's going on that folks can follow and check out with your world.
Okay. Well, I think 10-year-old Aaron would give it like 5 out of 10, maybe. I don't know. It's like adult Aaron, who actually like sees those different layers and everything. I would give it 10 sorcerer contracts out of 10, or maybe 9 contractors and 1 flight attendant who is
I like that one. That's a high rating.
Yeah. Get a mix of people. But no, I really liked it. And again, after like I said, like more recently watching it, I'm like, oh wait, this is the Q continuum, or there's these bits and pieces of like, it's like Star Trek DNA has been used to, they take a little bit here, a little bit there, and it's become all these other things. You kind of see that with Data getting coming from all the different bits and pieces of what Gene was doing at the time with the Questar tapes and stuff like that. So it's just interesting that the 1970s were kind of like a generator for all of this. Phase 2, the shows that didn't happen were reused for Next Generation, and so I think it's really cool to go back and see how, like, for something that people just kind of dismissed for such a long time, it's an important part of Star Trek history.
Right on. So, very well said.
Yeah. But you can find me on Twitter for now, at least at Geek Filter. I'm on Mastodon apparently or something. I don't know.
Oh, we have to pool our research. I got to figure out. I'm on Mastodon too.
Yeah,
I want to create.
We're all going to try to learn that.
A Star Trek server just so we control it ourselves.
Let's do it.
I actually have a developer looking at it with me, because it's not like, oh, you just fill out a few things. You actually have to have a place to serve it. You're basically hosting a website, essentially. So yeah, so I'm gonna.
That excites me in the sense that I feel like I used to do that kind of stuff back in the day. I had a server for a little while back in the 90s, so that's kind of exciting. If it's like that, maybe I'll explore it too.
There is a Text Trek Discord server if anyone wants to hang out there.
Discord would be fun.
Yeah,
let me
know. Fun too.
It's harder
put
to
a
like just
link
randomly
in
meet people
here.
on a Discord server. But, and then oh wait, I can't. Never mind. Stuff is coming with Star Trek related in the future. Let's put it that
Excellent.
way.
But right now, you can go and find some really cool variant covers that Aaron has done for Star Trek, right? They're all out now,
Yep,
right?
IDW.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Last month was the Stargazer issue number 2 with 7 of 9, and I
That's
did a
my
version
favorite. I
where
love that
she's
one with the
reflected
curve.
into the
Yeah.
Elcar's
Yeah, yeah, it's
panel and
very
stuff
cool.
like that. And the original version looked more like a reflection, but they're like, oh, she's not really strong enough, so I had to like brighten it up, so it doesn't look 100% realistic in that sense, but it's still pretty cool.
No,
It's
it still
still
looks
pretty cool,
good.
yeah. Yeah.
Although I agree, I saw the original and it looked fantastic, but the one that they use looks great also.
So yeah, it was fun. I love to be able. I actually talked with David Blass and the person who designed the Elcars for the Stargazer. So I
Was that,
had to do my own version, so there was like gaps, so you could actually see her reflection.
Was that Andrew Jarvis by any chance?
Yes, I believe
He's
so, yeah.
awesome. I
Yeah.
met him at Star Trek Chicago, and he's
Nice.
very cool. He tweets out like really cool reference materials and
Yeah.
like just stuff that he's worked on.
Yeah,
So,
he helped me a lot with that, so that was
very
pretty cool.
cool. Shout out to Andrew Jarvis in case you're listening. You never know.
Was I with you? I don't remember meeting him.
I think I was with Toddy. I'm not sure. It might have been one of those times where I was alone
Oh.
because I went off and did my own thing. But yeah, he's cool.
Okay, cool. And that
Yeah.
is Text Trek number 105 and 106. When we
Nice.
discuss we go through every episode of the animated series in 2 podcast episodes. So we did the first 12, or no, I'm sorry, the first 11 with Rich, and then we did episodes 12 through 22 with Aaron. So
Right
it was a
on.
lot of fun.
All right,
That many
excellent.
episodes. I don't even talk about not remembering things. I'm just like, wait, what?
Even Fathery's fallible. When I first met Fathery, he could pull things out of his brain. Just like I was like, "What? How does he know what that is?" And like now you have to look it up. So we all have brain fog from after the last 2 years. It happens. It happens. Guys, this has been such a pleasure. Gary, thank you for joining us. Aaron, Fathery, you guys are so awesome for coming here. Everyone, please check out these nice, wonderful folks. Audience, you've been wonderful as usual. I've loved all the questions as well as all the kind of chatter that goes on that I don't get to talk about on here because it might not be related, but it's good anyways. It's fun. Tomorrow you can check me out. Father, you're not going to be at the Trek Central chat,
Right.
right?
I'm gonna be at Wurst Fest in New Braunfels.
At Worst
Texas.
Fest, that's right.
We'll be eating
So-
bratwurst and drinking beer.
Send us pictures.
But
But
jumping in a car and driving somewhere else, and like your weekend is packed from what I heard. It was just like,
Yeah,
but you can catch me and Dom Paris, who apparently showed me a video of King Charles skateboarding in a double-breasted suit, because I thought it was wild that he rapped and breakdanced, or he just broke dance. He didn't rap. I haven't heard King Charles rapping, but yeah, apparently he broke dance when he was the prince. Broke dance? Is that right? Break dance? Broke dance? Like, past
What's the
tense,
proper past tense?
break it down.
break it down. He broke it down. But anyways, yeah, Prince Charles, wild stuff. But anyways, I'll be on with Dom Paris on Trek Central tomorrow at 4. I think it's gonna be 3:30 or 4 p.m. Eastern time. Stay tuned on their Twitter to find out about that. And yeah, I look forward to it. Starfleet Boy is behind on his modern Trek discussions, and he has OCD, and he can't skip to a newer one without doing the old one. So I'm in a conundrum. But maybe later when I drink tonight, I might do an impromptu live stream, because the current episode of Prodigy is my favorite, and I feel like I just have a lot to say about it. So I want to say a lot about it. So we'll see. That might happen tonight. But until next time, audience and friends, live long and prosper, and we will